A young man and his three younger siblings, who kept his loving mother's death a secret due to their desire to be together, are possessed by a terrible presence in the huge mansion where they dwell. Three brothers and a sister had recently lost their mother. After her death, they are afraid of being separated, so they hide her death from the whole world. Also, the elder brother covers all the mirrors in the house to protect themselves from the unseen ghost. This is not what it appears, as it carries a deadly truth behind its walls. Spoiler ahead! Watch out! In 1968, a single mother takes her 4 children to Marrowbone, her rural childhood home. They've traveled all the way from England in order to begin a new life. Mom then requests all of her children to stop using the surname Fairbairn and go with Marrowbone, her maiden surname. The family settles into their new home and enjoys their new life. Considering they are new to the neighborhood, no one recognizes them, meaning they may finally roam freely. One day, while roaming near the woods, the 4 kids discover an unusual skull rock sculpture. They meet a girl called Allie and instantly become friends. Over the next 6 months, the whole group enjoyed a lot and spent most of their time with one another. However, disaster strikes once more. Mom becomes ill unexpectedly, and the family does not possess the funds to treat her. In her final moments, she speaks to her eldest son Jack and requests him to look after his younger siblings. She also warns him not to tell anybody about her death until he turns 21, when he can legally care for his siblings. Until then, Jack must keep hidden along with his siblings. Mom also gives him a secret box which is hidden in a cabinet containing some of her husband's money, and at that moment, she dies. Then Jack gathers all of his siblings and reads his mother's final wish, which mentions that they all should stay together. Billy is the second son, next is Jane, and Sam is the youngest. Here, Jack makes them promise that nobody could ever separate them. Later, they bury their mother and begin living secretly at the Marrowbone house. One day, while Jane was relaxing in her room, a gunshot cracked her window, and she noticed a man carrying a rifle in his hand. The movie then shifts to 6 months later. They have covered all of the mirrors in the house to protect themselves against the alleged ghost living in the attic. The siblings feel he has disappeared, but they are unwilling to take any chances and cover the mirrors. Jack is the only brother who leaves the house to purchase supplies. One day, he goes to a nearby pharmacy to acquire medicine for his mother. This suggests that he is still keeping her death hidden. Following that, he visits the local library, wherein Allie works as a librarian and discovers that they are having an emotional affair. Allie assists Jack with certain books so that his younger brother, Sam, may be homeschooled. However, their discussion ends soon when Porter, the town lawyer, arrives unexpectedly. He is found to have a one-sided affection for Allie. He informs Jack that he will be visiting their residence to obtain the transfer charges and get his mother's signature in order to transfer the estate to their name. Jack claims that his mom is seriously ill, yet Porter insists on visiting their home, considering that he needs to validate their mother's signature. He also notes that the transferring costs are $200. When Jack returns home, he hurriedly informs his siblings that if the lawyer discovers about their mother's death, they are going to be separated. They also don't have enough money to cover the transfer fees, so they decide to use the money left by their mother. That night, the children unlock the box and discover a large amount of cash within. The next morning, the 4 start repairing the house to make it appear as if they are a normal family. Jane is tasked with faking her mother's signature. Porter soon arrives at the house where he is greeted by Jack. Jack hands him £200, and the clever lawyer gladly accepts the money because it is worth over $200. Jack then states that his mom is seriously ill and could feel slandered if someone saw her. So he asks Porter to offer him the paperwork to get it signed. The lawyer hands him the papers, and Jack runs into his mother's room. At the same time, Porter chooses to take a tour of the residence. He finds a clothed mirror near the stairs. Soon after, he walks towards their mother's room. Fortunately, they complete the signatures just before Jack discovers they are lying. The lawyer then signs the exact same documents, officially transferring the estate into their name. That night, the siblings celebrate their victory by playing a pirate board game. When Billy throws his dice on the floor, Sam goes to inspect the numbers and slowly moves into the darkness. As he approaches the steps, the protective covering on the mirror by the stairs unexpectedly falls to the ground. So terrified, Jack hides all of his siblings in the stronghold they've built within the house. The 3 wait anxiously while Jack attempts to cover the mirror. Jack climbs a ladder and manages to finish the work. On the other side, Porter meets Allie on her route to work and gives her a ride. She initially refuses, but after much prompting, she agrees. On the way, Porter talks about the Marrowbone siblings. He shares his concern that they live in privacy and barely engage with the community. Porter also claims that the siblings' circumstances are the result of their father's actions. That evening, Jack brings Sam to the window and teaches him how to communicate with Allie through Morse code. They use a torch for sending messages to one another. The couple and Allie are joyful as they communicate with one another. The next morning, we observe Jack and Allie having a beautiful moment alongside the shore, and she asks him about his father. Jack feels uncomfortable with the discussion, yet he admits that his father was an evil person who committed awful things. He was the reason why they came all on their way to America. Allie then asks if his father is still in England, but Jack responds that he is no longer alive and cannot harm the family. The couple then has a passionate kiss, whereas Porter sees them from afar. When Jack gets home, he gets questioned by Billy. He is fed up with being a prisoner, while his brother is free to travel whenever he wants. Even though Jack was supposed to leave the house for an emergency, now he is secretly dating Allie. The brothers have an argument, which leads Jack to become mysteriously feeble. While Jack is taking a bath in the evening, Sam grabs his keys and slips into his late mother's room, where all of the mirrors have been secured and hidden. He ultimately meets the ghost in the mirror. Next, Jack awakens from his sleep to discover his siblings in trouble. Jane informs him that Sam walked into their mother's room and saw the ghost. At this point, it becomes obvious that the ghost they're referring to is actually their father. He traveled all the way from England to kill them. However, the siblings trapped him in the attic, closed up the door, and left him to starve to death. Porter, on the other hand, is aware that Allie rejects him because of Jack, so he provides her with a case report on the Marrowbone siblings. After he leaves, Allie reads the documents and discovers the awful reality. It turns out that the sibling's father, Mr. Fairbairn, was a serial killer who performed several killings. He also abused his own daughter, Jane, and ultimately was sent to prison after Jack testified against his father in court. But just a few months later, Fairbairn managed to escape from prison. Then Jane, at home doing her chores, hears her pet raccoon, which makes noises in the attic. She reaches it through a hole in the wall, but when Jane raises her hand to feed it, something creepy catches her from inside, and she is unable to save her raccoon as it is pulled into the attic. Porter, on the other hand, gets a phone call from his superior alerting him that his relocation has been canceled. They then want him to become a partner and purchase 10% of the company's shares. However, being a partner requires $5,000, which he does not currently have. After the call, he gets frustrated and starts throwing his belongings around. During this time, he comes across a news report revealing that the 10,000 pounds Fairbairn stole remain missing. Porter believes the siblings have it, so he gets back to their home later to confront Jack. He says to have information about their fake and threatens to disclose it unless Jack pays him 10,000 pounds in compensation. After he leaves, Jack enters the house, where his siblings are standing by for him. Jack believes it's over because they can't get the box out of the attic, but Billy has a different plan. That night, while everyone is sleeping, he climbs to the roof of the home. He opens the chimney hatch, attaches himself to a rope, and gradually descends to the attic. However, just then he recognizes their father, who has managed to survive. Feared Billy climbs the rope with all of his strength, but his father begins pulling it from below. This causes the youngster to become entangled in the ropes, and he also dumps the money box back into the attic. Fortunately, he climbs back to the roof. Jack wakes up on the floor, clearly injured and disoriented. He discovers Billy in critical condition and states he went into the attic to grab the money but failed. Surprisingly, he discovered their father, who is still alive. Hearing all of this, Jack becomes puzzled and falls, resulting in a seizure. Jane calms him down and urges that he tell Allie the whole truth, as she is the only one who can save Jack. That night, the siblings communicate with Allie by Morse code, inviting her to come to the skulls the next day. The following morning, Allie appears at the specified place, eager to meet the siblings after so long. However, all she finds is a book titled Our Story. She reads the first few pages. Porter shows up at the Marrowbone home at the same time to pick up his money, but he finds no one there. He gets to know that their mother has died. Porter suspects the siblings have hidden the cash in the attic, so he takes a hammer and begins pulling down the wall. On the other hand, Allie keeps reading the book until she reaches the part where a man unexpectedly appears outside the Marrowbone residence and shoots at a window. This prompts a flashback, revealing that the individual in question was none other than Fairbairn. He traveled all the way here to kill his children. Jack, being the eldest son, locked all of his siblings in the attic and opted to deal with the man alone. He took the box containing the money and grasped it at their father, figuring he wanted it. When Fairbairn spotted the box, he called upon his son to the woodland. When they arrived at a remote area area near the shore, Jack requested that his father take his possessions and never cause another tragedy in the family. Unfortunately, his father hits him. Jack stabbed the man in the throat with his knife. He was eventually trapped by his dad at a height. Then in a brutal action, Fairbairn pushes his son away from there before moving to the other siblings. Fairbairn then descended into the attic via the chimney and killed his children. Jack regains consciousness and hurries to save his siblings. When Jack knew his siblings had been murdered, he resolved to commit suicide, but he then heard their voices. When he looked inside the fortress, he found them alive and well, which led him to believe they were still alive. Since then, Jack has covered all of the mirrors to avoid reminding himself that he is alone. Back in the present, Porter tries to break into the attic, where he discovers the decaying remains of the three siblings, Billy, Jane, and Sam. Allie is in sorrow after discovering the shocking truth about the Marrowbone siblings. She runs to their residence and discovers Jack inside, engaged in an interaction with his alternative identities. Allie attempts to get him out of it, but Jack refuses to accept that his siblings are dead, so he orders her to go. Then she notices the opened attic entrance and goes inside. Then she is shocked to discover the siblings' desecrated bodies. She also discovers Porter, who has been seriously injured in the throat. At this time, Allie understands she isn't alone in the room. However, before she escapes, starved Fairbairn slams the door. She then faces the father, who has been held detained and still alive. Allie screams out to Jack, but he doesn't respond, so she begins calling out to his other identities. The strategy works, and Billy offers to assist her. Fairbairn jumps at Allie and nearly chokes her to death. Then Jack arrives just in time, where he ends the horror with a single shot. The movie then turns several months later, where we find that Allie has selected to continue living with Jack to care for the guy she loves. The doctor instructs her to give Jack his medicine on time so that he does not reveal his other identities. However, Allie ignores the doctor's advice. She knows he feels good around his siblings, so she allows him to be in that same way. The movie ends with Jack observing his younger siblings joyfully playing in the fields. He continues to believe that all of them are one family. We really hope you enjoyed today's recap of the movie Marrowbone. Please leave a comment below on what you loved about the movie and why. Be sure to like the video, and please don't forget to support our channel by subscribing so you don't miss any amazing content. Until next time, light, camera, action. We look forward to seeing you in our next video.